when I was down there at the Peace Vigil, coming off of 2023, that was our last sort of violent year since 2020. And the feeling that I got from everyone in that neighborhood was that they wanted to be as safe as everywhere else. In a city that's over 50% white, we have had 37 murders since January 1st of 2023, and we have not had one white individual murdered. I am the very first to recognize that especially our African American neighborhoods in this city are suffering, are struggling. The police department wants to be there to stand shoulder to shoulder with them, make sure that all the root causes, all the predeterminants of violence are addressed. But I'm not going to minimize the impact that taking these two individuals, Dominique Sterling and Tyreek Bedison, off the street is going to add to the safety of that community. I know that there's still, in some parts of this city, a culture of lack of cooperation with the police, and I'm so thankful that I've seen that culture get smaller and smaller by every day, because the young children that live on the northeast side where my 11 and 13-year-old live, and the 11 and 13-year-olds that live in Burton Heights should have the exact same safety. They should all be able to walk out without fear of a stray bullet. They should all, every mom should not have to worry about their son coming home because they were targeted by 5 individuals for murder that day. So I know there's work to be done. I'm very thankful the detectives on this case who did so much work to get closure, to get justice for Daryl's loved ones. And we're going to keep it up. We're making progress in the city, and of course, this is a big part of it. So if you guys have any questions, happy to take them at this time.
Chief, name 3 people. Where are you standing with the other 2 people? You said 5 people involved in this case?
Yeah, so we know at least, Matt, 5 individuals were involved in this case. And I'm going to say at least because this is still a work in progress, but it's very important. We know that Dominique Sterling pulled the trigger. We wanted to get the charges as soon as possible with Dominique, with Tyreek, but we know there's still some work to do. So whereas usually I'd be as transparent as possible and tell you all the information we have and how we put it all together, we're still going to be withholding a little more because we know there are at least 5 individuals involved, and this is very much premeditated conspiracy. This individual, Daryl, was targeted. This was not a random act of violence. This was incomprehensible act of evil on the part of these 5 individuals.
Was it drugs or gang related by chance?
Well, by definition, I suppose you could say it was gang related, but I believe the motivation that we have at this time is a very long-standing dispute with these individuals that, Megan, if it was between me and you, it would be something that we could shake hands and forget about. But what we've seen over and over, especially in murders of young people, is motives that just don't rise to the level of physical violence, much less murder. And I'm sure that the details will come out in court, but at this point in time, I could say there was absolutely no good reason for Daryl to be killed.
Obviously, this has been a whole, sorry.
Go ahead, you're fine.
Obviously, it's been a whole year since we've gotten an answer to that murder. How long have you known Sterling's might be involved in this case?
I think very early on we got that information, and I won't say exactly where in the date, but so you'll recall the candlelight vigil that we held a few days after the murder. I made a big plea for individuals to come forward with information and to contact Silent Observer if they want to remain anonymous. Well, it seemed like a lot of people in the city of Grand Rapids knew who was responsible for this. It was just who was willing to come forward knowing that there are individuals like this that are willing to pull the trigger for petty grievances out there. Potentially who could take revenge, or potentially who could target violence against somebody coming forward. So it's a struggle that we face not only in this murder, but others, as I've spoken to you guys before, asking for help. But I think the Sterling's name came about very early on in this investigation.
So I said Sterling, so was
Right.
Samuel still alive at the time?
You know what, I'm sure he was, yeah.
He was there at the time of the shooting.
That is correct. Yes, Samuel Sterling was there, correct.
Was that an indication, I'm sorry, I'm gonna tie the two now
Yeah, go ahead.
They're all connected. When we know that he was Samuel Sterling at the time, considered a fleeing felon, did police know at the time that he was connected to this homicide?
None of the officers on scene at his death knew anything about his connection to this murder.
Can
Yeah.
you
Now-
get into any details of his role in this, since though he is deceased?
Well, as I said, yeah, obviously he's deceased, so we're not looking at charging him. That's an impossibility. However, he was present. He was in the vehicle with his brother who actually pulled the trigger. He was part of the conspiracy with at least these 5 individuals, so that means part of the planning to target and execute Daryl. As far as that, there's probably gonna be some information we'll probably never know because he's deceased.
Did you ever
Yeah.
have a suspect in custody for a different potential incident? It might have been a homicide that's now connected to this one.
Well, I'll tell you, both of these individuals are actually currently in custody for other incidents connected, if that helps answer the question. And that might be your answer, yeah. Which, that's happened in a few homicide investigations since I've been here. An individual is in custody in either jail or prison for something else. We know that they're a possible offender in this case, and it gives us a little bit more breathing room to make sure that all our Ts are crossed, all our Is are dotted. And certainly this is the case when this individual, it sounds like from what I've heard just anecdotally from rumors in the street, that there were a lot of people that were afraid of these individuals.
And those two have been in custody for a while now, so you
Right.
haven't been pressed to necessarily bring these charges.
Right,
But
although-
is the-
Yeah, it's one less stress, but even when that is the case, we're certainly know, in this case, I've been contacted a few times recently by the family of Daryl, and that's just as important to us. Clearly, the safety of others, extremely important, but I think it's incomprehensible to think of the pain that this family has gone through, and a lot of people that love Daryl very much, and they want those answers, and they wanted to hear the good news, and I'm sure they'll see this covered today. We did reach out to the family, meet with them, and talk to them today, so they had a heads up before you guys did, but it's also, it's very important, like I say, we can't bring Daryl back, but we can bring a sense of justice. We can let the families know how much we care, that this has been something we have not forgotten about for well over a year. We know that they haven't forgotten about Daryl, and we haven't either.
Do either of these suspects in custody right now have priors?
But I believe both of them have priors, and certainly Dominique is a convicted felon, I believe, certainly prohibited from carrying a firearm. So just the fact that he was carrying a handgun, in this case, would be an additional felony. So, yeah, I don't think a life of crime is new to either of these young men.
What were they arrested for initially?
Why are they currently housed? You know what, I'm not sure. I don't have that information. You guys would probably be able to find out just as fast as me.
Obviously, you kind of had an idea early on about the Sterlings. Was it the same with Tyreek as well?
I'm not sure exactly when Tyreek was identified, but I think the silent observer tips, which have been key to getting us going on a lot of these murders, and they're very helpful, but oftentimes what happens is when we put that call out, we'll just get phone calls of, hey, Tyreek was involved, and that's all we have to work on. So it's nothing really that we can act upon until there's actually information to corroborate and to move forward with, so I'm not sure.
Obviously, you mentioned that there's a long list of people that have helped with this case.
Yeah.
Obviously, it took a year. Was there anything where it's like, yes, let's move forward with the charges?
I think just incrementally, it was just slow and steady wins the race, just keep on going. I know the detectives ran into a lot of roadblocks, and just their tenacity and never giving up and moving forward. And the family, as I said, has reached out to me and just said, especially in October when we charged the other 2 homicides that happened on November 6th, they just reached out, don't forget about Daryl. And I just had to keep assuring them, I don't like to use the term cold case, because it kind of sends an idea that, we've forgotten about it. We don't forget. And if there's any work to be done, we keep on moving forward. And even in those cases where we think we've exhausted everything, we're continually looking back and saying, is there something else we can do now? Is there some technology that's changed? Is there some new witness that can come forward? So this was the case of just persistence.
The other individuals involved, have you ID'd them and you're just still looking for them, or are you still looking to ID?
We're still looking to identify them. We have some, obviously, evidence to go on, and I'd like to say we're moving in the right direction. I am happy that Dominique, certainly of everyone, since he in fact did pull the trigger. I'm glad that he's off the street. I'm glad the charge has been placed against him, but we certainly will look to identify and charge the remaining conspirators as well.
To clarify, he was the only one to pull the trigger.
That's correct.
Okay, just
Right.
making sure.
You know how old Dominique is?
I don't. I know he's an adult. Yeah. Anything
Those
else?
guns,
Yeah.
any connection, do you
Ghost
know where
guns.
these guns came from, or if any of them have been traced back to?
The only information I have is that they weren't possessed legally. Obviously, we know the kind of gun it was, but I don't have that information to share at this time. Sorry.
Handgun,
Yeah, handgun, yep.
I
Anything
do know, we had been chatting, that the family had been in contact with you, even
Yeah.
a month ago, you guys were meeting with them on a Friday.
Yeah.
And it's hard for families sometimes when they don't see the in front of you
Yeah.
investigation.
Oh, yeah.
And some of it also is difficult because you're talking to maybe mom and dad, but not cousins,
Yep.
let's say.
Oh, yeah.
What do you want to say to families tonight that are like Daryl's family?
I-
You guys are still working these cases.
Yeah, and this isn't, obviously, Daryl's not the only homicide case that remained open. We are not forgetting, we're not giving up. We want justice, we want closure for every family that lost a loved one to murder. We care very much. I mean, it's tough, you said it very well. A lot of times the families don't see, and they can't see what we're doing, because we're not gonna tell a loved one that, we're waiting for a search warrant to come back on this specific piece of evidence, because as well-intentioned as they are, they say one bit of non-public information to the wrong person, it could wind up on social media, it could really destroy the integrity of the case. So it's difficult. So I actually have a mom of a homicide victim come in at 3 today. Loved ones of victims who have gone through this, they're always welcome here at the Grand Rapids Police Department. They're always welcome in my office to talk to them. And it is helpful just for me to reassure them. I can't tell you the details, but I can tell you I care very much. The detective team, super professional. Most of my career back in Chicago came through the detective world. And I've just been blown away by the professionalism and effectiveness of this group here. If my loved one was a victim of a crime, I would want the Grand Rapids Police detectives to investigate it. And so just reassuring the family, we care, we will not forget their loved ones, and we're gonna do everything we can.
How'd you know the Sterlings were together?
Information that'll all come out in court. Great question. But that's information that we're not quite ready to make public yet, all of the details around it, and part of that is because, like I said, there's a few individuals that are still outstanding, which we need to identify and arrest.
And they were brothers, correct?
That's correct,
Okay.
right.
There was some indication at one point that it was uncle and
My,
nephew.
my understanding is they're brothers, and that's,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, anybody else got anything? I appreciate you guys taking the time to come out in the cold and talk to me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And that was Grand Rapids Police Chief Eric Windstrom at the podium there, discussing charges that have just been announced from a 2023 homicide in the Burton Heights neighborhood. We were live there just now. Phil Penarski here with the News 8 live desk. We were there live for the entirety of the press conference. We will be bringing you more up-to-date coverage, obviously, on these charges as they become more available throughout the rest of the evening. I want to circle back now to obviously the story at hand. Charges were handed down to a 2023 homicide that happened in that Burton Heights neighborhood. 33-year-old Dominic Sterling now faces charges of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, as well as 2 weapons charges in the death of Daryl Yarber. That happened back in November of 2023. We've got a full story detailing some of these charges and how the investigation led up to this moment right now over on woodtv.com. That was a very violent day there in the Burton Heights neighborhood back in 2023. Yarber was just one of 3 people that were killed on that exact same day. Anya Rodriguez and Malik Eubanks were also found dead earlier in the day. Suspect in those 2 cases has been charged back in October of last year. Back to the press conference with Chief Winstrom. We do have some additional information to report. Winstrom telling us that at least 5 people were involved in the death of Daryl Yarber. Dominic Sterling was being credited with pulling the trigger. That is according to Chief Winstrom. He did say, though, that the department still has a lot of work to do. He said, as I mentioned, up to 5 people were involved in this murder. He called it very premeditated, not a random act of violence. He actually called it an act of evil. He said that it was stemming from a long-standing dispute. He also did mention that Samuel Sterling, the man who was killed by MSP Sergeant Brian Keeley, was also present during the killing, and that was part of the planning. We are expecting to learn a lot more information as time goes on throughout the day. I do want to push everybody to our website, woodtv.com. We're going to have all the latest information there, and we will continue to bring it to you live on air and online as well. Thank you so much for tuning in to this latest edition of the News 8 Live Desk. I'm Phil Pinarski, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.